Well, good evening. After this day, 1,208 of the Trump administration, 176 days to go until our next presidential election. And while we are deep into the Trump presidency now, we are nonetheless covering a number of firsts tonight. For starters, the President of the United States stood in the Rose Garden today and accused his predecessor of committing a crime while offering no details or proof. And that wasn't even the lead story from the press conference today. If there was a bumper sticker quote to emerge from today's session about the climbing U.S. death toll, it was this, and we quote, "Don't ask me, ask China." Because, as others have theorized, unable to run for re-election on the economy or health care or leadership, the deflection to China already underway will be constant and a daily theme. At the start of today's event, the president declared, "We have met the moment and we have prevailed." When called out on that later on, the president said he was talking about testing. And today he staked his word on testing. These are the quotes. "Americans should be able to get a test right now. If somebody wants to get tested right now, they'll be able to get tested." While he stopped to add that not everybody should get a test in his estimation, he went back there again, quote, "If people want to get tested, they get tested." And that, we know, is just not true. About the economy, the president continues to bet on the third quarter of this year. He's billing it as the transition to greatness. And he said today, quote, "Greatness is going to be in the fourth quarter, but it's really going to be next year." Back in the real world tonight, we have lost 81,468 Americans to this virus, with well north of 1.3 million cases that we know of. The president claims, quote, "Numbers are looking much better, going down almost everywhere," which he then repeated this afternoon at the White House.
And our country has been incredible. And you see the numbers are dropping very substantially. The numbers are coming down very rapidly all throughout the country.
However, the New York Times finds at least 9 states, these 9, where cases are on the rise right now. NBC News reports an undisclosed White House task force report shows the virus spread in the heartland, far from the nation's coasts. As we mentioned, Trump appeared in the Rose Garden today to announce that his administration will distribute $11 billion to states to help ramp up testing. The money comes from funds already approved by Congress for coronavirus relief. As over 40 states are now in some stage of lifting restrictions, that'll be 48 by next weekend. Just over 2% of Americans have now been tested for this. According to the COVID tracking project, today nearly 400,000 people were tested. But again, in a nation of 330 million, give or take, experts up at Harvard have said the U.S. should be conducting at least 900,000 tests a day by May 15 to have a better idea of how this virus is spreading among us. Today, Trump repeated a claim he made 2 months ago about the availability of tests. It wasn't true when he said it 2 months ago, still isn't true today.
We prevailed on testing.
You're now promising that everyone who needs a test will be able to get one at some point soon. When will that be a true statement exactly?
Well, it's a true statement already. As far as Americans getting a test, they should all be able to get a test right now. They should be able to get a test. If somebody wants to be tested right now, they'll be able to be tested. If people want to get tested, they get tested. We have the greatest capacity in the world, not even close. If people want to get tested, they get tested.
But there was this clarification from a member of the task force.
Everybody who needs a test can get a test. If you are symptomatic with a respiratory illness, that is an indication for a test, and you can get a test. If you need to be contact traced, you can get a test.
Meanwhile, the White House is battling its own coronavirus outbreak, as you may know, after the president's valet and then the vice president's press secretary tested positive. Today, a number of staff members were wearing masks. You may recall the CDC recommendation that face coverings should be used. That was back in early April. Even son-in-law, senior advisor Jared Kushner was sporting one today. Today, Trump was asked about the decision.
Why haven't you required everyone at the White House to wear masks before now?
Well, if they're a certain distance from me or if they're a certain distance from each other, they do. In the case of me, I'm not close to anybody. Obviously, in my case, I'm very far away from everyone. Just about everybody I've seen today has worn a mask. Yeah.
Were you the
Please,
one
go
who
ahead.
required that, sir?
Yeah, I did. I required it.
Trump was also pressed on whether less stringent rules led to this White House outbreak.
Where did the system break down to allow that to happen?
I don't think the system broke down at all. One person tested positive, surprisingly, because the previous day tested negative. It can happen. It's the hidden enemy. Remember that. It's the hidden enemy. So things happen.
You say, Mr. President, to other companies who may look at this and say, I don't know if we're ready for all this.
Well, I think, we have a lot of people in the White House, and we had one. Basically, we had one person. I think we've controlled it very well. We have hundreds and hundreds of people a day pouring into the White House. So I think we're really doing a very good job in watching it, and I think it's very well contained, actually.
This is the second time the president has expressed surprise that you can test negative before testing positive. In addition to the 2 confirmed infections within Trump's circle, none of the medical experts were there today, in part because 3 task force members, Fauci, the CDC director Redfield, and the FDA director, Commissioner Dr. Stephen Hahn, are all in some form of self-quarantine after coming into contact with the White House staff who tested positive for the virus. They all plan to testify at a Senate Health Committee hearing tomorrow. That's being done by video conference. In fact, the committee chairman, Lamar Alexander, Republican of Tennessee, will also run the hearing remotely. He's in self-isolation after exposure to one of his own staff members who tested positive. Even with coronavirus now discovered in the West Wing, Trump's attention has been focused on a number of other issues besides the pandemic. Over the weekend, he posted a barrage of messages and attacks on social media. There were 125 of them over a 16-hour span, averaging one every 17.5 minutes on Mother's Day. Among them was this, accusing former President Barack Obama of committing, quote, the biggest political crime in American history by far. This afternoon, Phil Rucker of The Washington Post, who's standing by to join us in a moment, asked the president for an explanation.
What crime exactly are you accusing President Obama of committing, and do you believe the Justice Department should prosecute him?
Obamagate. It's been going on for a long time. It's been going on from before I even got elected, and it's a disgrace that it happened. And if you look at what's gone on, and if you look at now all of this information that's being released, and from what I understand, that's only the beginning. Some terrible things happened, and it should never be allowed to happen in our country again. And you'll be seeing what's going on over the coming weeks. And I wish you'd write honestly about it, but unfortunately, you choose not to do so. Yeah, John, please.
Crime. What is the crime exactly that you're accusing him of?
You know what the crime is. The crime is very obvious to everybody.
That's all we got today. There was another contentious exchange, one which brought the news conference to an abrupt end.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you. I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty
question. Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay. Anybody else? Please go ahead in the back, please.
I have 2 questions.
No, it's okay.
But you pointed to me. I have 2 questions, Mr. President.
Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish.
Okay.
But can I ask you
Ladies
a
and
question,
gentlemen,
please?
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So rather than take questions from Caitlin Collins of CNN, the president called it off.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.